He makes too many mistakes for me to take his advice only, I'll tell you.
Mayor Bob Filner taking another shot at the city attorney as he defends his cuts to Jan Goldsmith's budget. Hi, I'm Dwayne Brown. The story tonight on KPBS Evening Edition. A food fight downtown between San Diego food trucks and restaurant owners will tell you what's behind the turf war.
And nuclear experts talk with us about Edison's announcement to consider permanently closing San Onofre nuclear power plant and how that could impact summer power use in San Diego. Then how this poster and other hard-to-find art at UC San Diego renewed student interest in a mysterious and tragic campus death decades ago. I'm Peggy Pico. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Erwin Jacobs and by
Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. The budget debate at San Diego City Hall led to more harsh words today from Mayor Bob Filner about City Attorney Jan Goldsmith. The mayor's budget proposal cuts 13 employees from the city attorney's office. Goldsmith says his staff shouldn't be cut because it keeps the city from having to hire outside lawyers. Filner disagrees.
All I've seen in recent months since I've been mayor are losses in court. In fact, lectures from the judge on how incompetent the representation has been. I've seen requests for outside counsel. If you keep requesting outside counsel, I mean, how good is your inside stuff? So I haven't seen the kind of high-quality efficiency that is being claimed.
San Diego is suing to keep polluted groundwater out of Murphy Canyon Creek. It's coming from Kinder Morgan Energy's cleanup of a gas plume under Qualcomm Stadium in Mission Valley. Today, the city filed a suit against the State Water Control Board for allowing the dumping to continue. KPBS investigative reporter Meetha Sharma has been following this story for at least 5 years now. She joins us from the news center. Now the city's the dispute with regulators goes way back, of course, right?
It does, Dwayne. For years, the city has opposed Kinder Morgan's releases of water into Murphy Canyon Creek, but regulators have allowed the company to discharge hundreds of thousands of gallons of water a day into the creek despite those objections. The discharges are part of Kinder Morgan's cleanup of a plume at Qualcomm Stadium caused by several petroleum spills in the 1980s and 90s at the Mission Valley terminal just north of the stadium.
And Amitha, how would you describe the water Kinder Morgan is discharging into the creek? Is it polluted?
Well, after the company extracts the water, it treats it and then dumps it into Murphy Canyon Creek. But state regulators fined Kinder Morgan in 2008 for exceeding pollutant limits in those discharges. And in its lawsuit today, the city accused regulators of allowing Kinder Morgan to violate rules on how much of the pollutant known as total dissolved solids can be released into the creek. The city wants Kinder Morgan to clean the water properly and then re-inject it into the tainted aquifer.
And officials believe that process will replenish the aquifer and expedite the cleanup, right?
That's right, Dwayne.
KPBS investigative reporter Meetha Sharma. We will soon be paying more to keep the lights on in San Diego. State Public Utility Commission approved SDG&E's rate increase today. It goes into effect in September. The increase means an extra $9.95 a month for electric customers. Natural gas customers will pay around $3.35 a month more. The PUC says the increases will cover the utilities' infrastructure costs and keep systems running safely. We told you earlier this week the state's power grid manager says San Diego may be prone to power outages this summer as the San Onofre nuclear plant remains shut down. Peggy Pico has more on the latest developments.
After 15 months of being offline, the fate of the San Onofre nuclear power plant may be at a critical junction. Southern California Edison now says they'll consider keeping the plant closed permanently. Meanwhile, state regulators are about to hear arguments about what, if any, cost should be passed on to ratepayers. Joining me with further details are Rochelle Becker with the Alliance for Nuclear Responsibility and San Diego State University professor and nuclear containment expert Murray Jennings. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Rochelle, next week, the California Public Utility Commission, or PUC, will hold a hearing on San Onofre. Will this hearing get us any closer to deciding who's going to have to pay for all this?
Well, it's our first toe in the water. It's going to be a long process, but it has to be a complete process. We need to know all the facts, have them all in the record to make appropriate decisions. This is a very costly move on the part of the PUC and decisions on the part of Edison, and costs that will either pass on to ratepayers or shareholders. And so we need all the facts on the table before we proceed. We begin with those facts in phase 1. There are 4 phases plus an extra phase that we just added just last week.
You mentioned ratepayers and shareholders.
Correct.
Who do you think should pay?
Oh, I believe the shareholders should pay. I'm absolutely certain the shareholders should pay. We paid once already.
We paid once already. Murray, what do you think about that? Who do you think should pay for it's just been 15 months of one thing after another?
Well, I think it'll be 3 parties. I think Mitsubishi will pay a part of it. I think the rate holders will pay a part of it, and I think the shareholders will pay a part. I figure if everybody's unhappy, it's probably the fairest decision.
A lot of people share that, divided among all. Now, Rochelle, your organization, Alliance for Nuclear Responsibility, is going to have an opportunity to cross-examine SDG&E and Southern California Edison, who's the parent company of San Onofre plant. What issues are going to be brought up during those cross-examinations?
Well, it's mostly the issues of what costs were incurred in 2012 and what costs should be passed on to ratepayers. It's not what the outage costs. That's in a separate proceeding, and it's not whether or not Edison did a good job of putting the steam generators in, whether or not Mitsubishi is responsible for the costs. It's just the cost of going forward last year. So it's inflation rates. It's bonuses to $11 million bonus to Mr. Craver. It's
explain who Mr. Craver is.
Mr. Craver is the CEO of Edison. It's inflation rates. Did we use the right inflation rates in this? So there's many questions, and every party has a different perspective on this, which is good because it brings all the perspectives together. But our focus is basically what were the costs incurred last year and who should be paying for them.
This is going to take some time to sort all this out.
It is going to take a great deal of time.
And you're okay with that?
I am okay with that. I want it done right, and I want it done so nobody has any questions when it's done. We have all the facts on the table, and the decisions were based on facts and not emotion, not on politics, but on the facts.
Well, meanwhile, while this is going on, Edison last week said that if the Nuclear Regulatory Commission does not grant them approval to restart the plant pretty soon, they may just go ahead and shut down either one or both reactors. What factors would go into making this decision as to why we should shut down one or the other?
Well, Unit 3 and Unit 2 are now different from the steam generators, and I think the problems in Unit 3 are such that it would be very expensive to bring back, so the decision to shut it down will probably be easier. Unit 2, the longer it's down, the more expensive it will be to bring back. So I think they're looking at what is the cutoff point beyond which it doesn't pay to bring it back.
And they're not going to wait for the commission, it sounds like. Well, at least they've said they may not.
Probably not. We've had some experience with Unit 1 on this item, and it took a long time and it was very expensive.
Okay, well, prior to going offline, I read that at full capacity, San Onofre plant could power a little more than 1 million homes. So what impact, and we'll start with you, what impact would shutting down San Onofre, let's say the plant, have on San Diego power usage?
Pretty sure the same impact that it had last summer and this summer. We don't have it now, so the impacts will continue. We did put in PowerLink, so we have power coming in from that. There's a very large solar plant that's being put in line that Edison is going to be buying the power for. SDG&E is making its own plans. They're not walking in lockstep quite as much as they were at first with Edison, so it'll be interesting to see. Nobody wants to admit everything's wrong, but Mr. Craver in their last earnings call, not in this earnings call, did say that either repairs or replacement could take 5 years. Their license ends in 2022, so is it cost effective to make those repairs?
And what do you think, Murray? Cost effective to repair them and the long-term impact if it is shut down?
Well, I think it's cost effective to bring Unit 2 back now. I have my doubts about Unit 3. From a risk standpoint, I'm very concerned about the reliability of San Diego. We're at the end of the line for everybody's power delivery system. So I like having a producer near San Diego. So that's why I like it.
Okay, Murray Jennings and Rochelle Becker, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Yep.
By the way, Southern California Edison declined our request for an interview. Firefighters got some vital practice at Camp Pendleton today. Marines and Navy worked with CAL FIRE and the Sheriff's Department in an aerial exercise. Helicopter teams work with ground crews to practice water drops and setting fire lines. CAL FIRE predicts a very dangerous season this year because of a dry winter. There was a sit-in at Cal State San Marcos today. The protesters unhappy over the university's response to sorority members who posted photos of themselves dressed as Latina gang members. The photos went on social media. The sororities issued an apology, but the university is not punishing the organizations or its members. Some students are upset about it.
To, come to school, people don't understand that there's real struggles behind these things, that they're real. We have to go home to them whenever we go with our families or in our communities, and it's not funny. It's not funny to us. In fact, it's hurtful.
After an open forum of students and staff, a school spokeswoman says the university plans sensitivity training for student organizations. San Diego State holds its traditional graduation ceremonies next week, but it's already started holding some cultural ceremonies. KPBS reporter Haley Persinger has a look at one of the more unusual ones.
You know this song, right? It's from The Wizard of Oz. But on Wednesday, it took on a bit of a different meaning. This was one of the opening acts at this week's Lavender graduation. It's a celebration specifically for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered, queer, and intersex community at San Diego State University. To that community, the rainbow isn't really a gateway to leave home. Instead, it says, you're already here, you belong. And that was the undertone of the whole event. Janelle Schaefer is graduating this year with a bachelor's degree in psychology. She wants to work in the community that she says is the most important thing in her life.
It's not easy for everybody, and that's exactly the reason why this community is so strong and puts so much love out there for those people that don't have supportive families and things like that, and you feel alone a lot.
But to some, Lavender graduation is even more important than that one. As attitudes toward homosexuality shift, this type of celebration has been staged at U.S. colleges, including the University of Virginia, Georgetown, University of Georgia. The University of Michigan started the trend in 1995. The ceremony doesn't replace the real graduation where students get their diplomas. Those happen next week. But LGBT studies advisor Esther Rothblum said that to some, Lavender graduation is even more important than that one.
Certainly a lot of people come out in college. Every student will give a speech, and some of them will say that this is the first time they've spoken out in public about being gay, and others will have their parents and grandparents and children and nephews and nieces in the room and so on.
This year's event was the biggest in its 4-year history. Haley Persinger, KPBS News.
They typically draw smiles and crowds, but restaurant owners in the downtown Gaslamp district say food trucks are moving in on their turf. But as KPBS reporter Taryn Minto tells us, the city has given them the go-ahead.
When Perry Spiller saw a sign announcing a weekly food truck market in downtown San Diego, she was furious.
And was blown away with that happening, knowing that there was unhappy businesses here, because I also was speaking on behalf of other businesses on this area of the Gaslamp.
Spiller is the manager at Dick's Last Resort, a restaurant in the historic Gaslamp district. Spiller said she and other area eateries had already been complaining to the city's code enforcement about 2 food trucks that had frequented the corner near her front door.
I finally got a case number, felt like I was moving forward, and I came to work one Friday and an employee asked me if I had seen what was on the corner outside her other door.
That's when she saw the sign that applies to a 1-block section of J Street, no parking, special event. Every Thursday, April to December, the city-approved special event would shut down the street and its parking spots, each week from 2 to 10 p.m. But because of its regular occurrence, people like Gary Smith question whether the food truck market should have even been approved in the first place.
There's been a plethora of things coming out of special events that are not really special events.
Smith is on the Downtown Parking Management Group. He argues that one-off events, like a parade, are a special event, but a weekly occurrence is not. His reason?
The special event charge that the city charges is a one-off fee, whether it's one day or whether it's 52 weeks.
That one-off fee is a $150 permit charge. Smith said he thinks it's a loophole that's being taken advantage of by the food truck market organizer, Curbside Bites. But the director of special events, Carolyn Wormser, said the one-off fee is part of the city's policy.
If the event is the same week after week in terms of how it's laid out and what its components are, the city will issue a permit on an annual basis.
Wormser said the permit applicant does have to pay the $150 fee each year. In this case, that'd be Curbside Bites owner Christian Murcia. He said the food truck market has the community support and even started a petition to prove it.
In 1 week alone, we've gotten almost 600 signatures from the community, and they love it, and they really are supportive of it and think of it as ways like, yeah, why not? These are small business owners, and they deserve to have a place here too.
But Special Events Director Wormser acknowledged the historical debate over food trucks in San Diego and says they're working on it.
We have had a meeting with the council president and some members of the community, as well as the Restaurant Association, to discuss food trucks in general, as well as this event.
Gary Smith is also working on it. On today's agenda for the Downtown Parking Management Group's meeting, a letter he wrote regarding special permits for food trucks downtown. And back in the Gaslamp district, Spiller said she did eventually get a response about her initial complaint of the food trucks coming around on the weekends. She was told that the city's code enforcement services don't regulate food trucks on public streets, only privately owned commercial property. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
The economy may be getting its groove back, but if you go by Google searches, the nation's collective mental health is still in a funk. So says a San Diego State researcher who studies the connection between the economy and the internet searches about mental health topics. John Ayers says those searches spiked during the Great Recession. This week he went back to see if there was any change with the improving economy and was surprised at what he found.
People aren't as confident as what they were before the Great Recession, and people are just as unconfident today as they were at the height of the Great Recession.
Ayers says policymakers should consider adjusting mental health aid to the economic outlook. A hard-to-find art installation on the UC San Diego campus is part of a mystery surrounding a tragic protest on campus decades ago. Peggy Pico explains what happened and why students care about it today.
In 1970, protests against the Vietnam War raged across college campuses, including UC San Diego. On May 10th, a sunny spring day nearly 43 years ago, one UC San Diego student died after he set himself on fire in front of his protest sign that read, "In God's name, in the war." It took another 3 decades before George Winnie's death was officially acknowledged by the university with a plaque. But as my guest, David Clouden, former UCSD Warren College instructor and curator Dave Hampton, will explain, today's students have a renewed interest in Winnie and the mysterious campus artwork he inspired. Thank you both for being here. David, how did you get interested? How did you hear and become interested in George Winnie?
Well, in 1999, I was a graduate student at UCSD, and I was teaching a course in the Warren College writing program about the history of the Vietnam War, writing about the history of the Vietnam War. And in the materials for the course that I had inherited, that course had been taught there since the 1970s, there was an article about George Winnie, and my students got interested in the history of that. And I knew that there was a site, a mysterious site on campus that was a memorial to him that was unlabeled. So I took them there from the classroom. We said, let's go look at it. And we went to visit, and the students were really impressed with what they saw, but they were surprised that it was unlabeled.
Let's talk about that sculpture in this area. Dave, there's a sculpture on campus that is attached to this, so to speak. It came a few years later. Tell us what this sculpture is and where it is and why it's attached to Winnie's death.
Well, there are a couple of sculptures that are installed in this place called the Winnie Memorial Grove, which is a little eucalyptus hollow between the library and the Price Center. And the artist that we're talking about, Virginia Maximowitz, went out one day with a shovel as part of her master's thesis and installed a grid pattern of 30 ceramic blocks in the ground. She left an impression of herself as well as sort of daily objects from her purse, kind of to create a fake fossil record of a human life. No one knew whose human life. And that's there in the ground, but she specifically set it there in a memorial statement because of the resonance with George Winnie's self-immolation.
So when you found out about this, why, you're an art curator, you like 50s and 60s art, why did this particularly speak to you as well?
Well, the way that this happened for me is I was I bought a poster and some other ephemera. I'm very interested in San Diego art history, and I buy things like posters and catalogs. And someone sold me this poster, which had been printed as a commemorative poster about George Winnie, and I'd never heard of this before. And I was surprised because I grew up in La Jolla. My father was a professor at a local university at the time that this happened, and I'd never heard this story. And it galvanized my interest, and I thought, I bet there are a lot of people that haven't heard this story.
Well, David, your students heard about it. In your class, you were talking about that, and that motivated them when they went out there and saw the art and saw the area to get this plaque going. And now there's a plaque there, a memorial plaque. How did that come about? What did the students do to make that happen?
I had 14 students in that course, and we were all standing in a circle looking at 30 blocks, and several of the students were, surprisingly to me, upset that there was no memorial. I think they identified with George Winnie. I mean, you know, they're young students. He was a student, and he had, you know, committed this incredible sacrifice and made this huge statement. And here he was, sort of completely shrouded in mystery with no recognition. And so they asked me why there was no memorial, and I said, because you haven't made the effort to get one put in. And then they thought about it, and then they decided to go ahead and, you know, go on that journey. And so they got approval from the they got approval from the Stewart Collection, who curate the art on campus, and they raised the funds, and they got the plaque put in, and it says, you know, that the space is in memory of George Winnie, and that he carried a sign that said, "In the name of God, end this war."
Let me end on this, Dave. Why do you think students today, they come across this artwork, why do you think that they care and this matters so many years later after Winnie's death, and also about the art?
Well, it's an amazing human story. It's a powerful statement and a tragedy relating to George Winnie, but the Maximowitz artwork, I think, is particularly effective because she allowed it to be a completely anonymous work, and yet it can take people on this journey, the journey that we're talking about, in a way that's really quite profound.
It does seem so, and I want to let folks know where they can read more of that. But thank you both so much for joining us and telling us this story. Now, you can read all of Dave Hampton's fascinating story about Winnie and the art installations on the UCSD campus by going to our website, kppbs.org.
I'm Ray Suarez. On the next News Hour, moves to build a coalition for immigration reform as members of Congress file more than 300 amendments to the legislation. That's Thursday on the PBS News Hour.
We're looking at a mix of sun and clouds along the coast with temperatures in the mid-60s over the next few days. Partly cloudy inland, but a little warmer. In the mountains, partly sunny tomorrow with sunshine this weekend. Warmer in the desert, reaching the 100-degree mark. Agriculture is tremendously important to our area, but there was a time when ranches, farms, and fields covered much of what is today urban San Diego County. Ken Kramer found one place in the South Bay where the decades have left things unchanged in tonight's About San Diego.
You talk about Chula Vista, and for generations, this was it. Not a big city. No, it was agriculture, alfalfa, and celery. A lot of celery in Chula Vista. Citrus, too. Lemons went out from here to all over the country. Tomatoes, a man found these old tomato crates in his garage and took them to the Chula Vista History Museum because that's really what it is, history. The city is all changed, urbanized, developed. Fields became streets. You don't see farms in Chula Vista anymore, except for this one. The very last one, still growing strong right in the city limits. The lone holdout at the corner of 4th and Main, one solitary strawberry field, bravely standing against encroaching urban pressures all around. Fred Williamson's company operates it.
This remains as a hobby and a tradition in our family, and we have 4 locations like this up and down from here all the way up to Oceanside.
The ladies were picking them, and then...
Much of what they pick is sold right on the spot, and there's something so wonderful about how fresh-grown strawberries taste anyway, sweet and ripe. But these seem particularly so. Maybe it's partly the good Chula Vista soil, I don't know, but Fred says that man there with him, Sam Kosaka, is the main reason why. For decades, Sam's just known how things grow best in this particular neighborhood.
Their family grew celery and tomatoes. And my father, when I was a young man, used to talk about this Kusaka family and Sam's leadership on being some of the finest tomato growers he's ever come across in his life.
Sam, by the way, is a very personable, friendly guy. He just doesn't want to be on camera or even have us take his picture much, preferring, I think, to have his strawberries speak for him, and every day they do. As to what's going to happen to this place, after all, Fred and his company and Sam are longtime tenants here, but the land itself is owned by a cement company. You look around, it's right in the city limits and all, and you know it's just a matter of time before it goes the way of the rest of what was once farmland in Chula Vista. For his part, Fred's in no hurry to see that happen.
It's now a place that we come and probably take a time out and remember where we came from and our roots and pay tribute to Sam.
An appreciation of the past and a respect for the wisdom that comes from knowing the land here. In the end, it makes for a very sweet story about San Diego.
If you want to watch more of Ken's stories about San Diego, his half-hour show can be seen tonight and every Thursday night at 8 on KPBS. You can find tonight's stories and download the KPBS app all on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.